Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over our learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to use trigonometric properties to find ratios of side lengths of right triangles. How are we learning it? Through the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties notes and the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties assignment. When can we use this? To repair the roof of your house, making sure that the base of the roofing is flush with the house and the slope of the roof allows for water runoff. How do we know we learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. After that, we'll go over the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties notes, and then I'll give you time to complete the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties assignment. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Reasoning with Irrational Numbers study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties notes. Our notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now, what are the parts of a right triangle? Well, if you notice, a right triangle has 3 sides, and this is our 90-degree angle. We call the side opposite of the 90-degree angle, or the longest side, we call that the hypotenuse. Then each of the other 2 sides we call our legs, and if we're looking at this angle here, this is considered the opposite angle. So notice it's the side that's opposite of where this angle is located. So if we drew an arrow from it, it would go straight to this side. So that's the opposite. And the side right next to it we call the adjacent side. So we have hypotenuse, we have opposite, and we have adjacent. Now, what are the trigonometric properties? The first one we call sine. And sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So it's a ratio of the side lengths with the opposite side being on top and the hypotenuse length being on bottom. Now, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have our near side, and we'll take that length over the length of the hypotenuse. Now, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it's the length of the opposite side over the length of the adjacent side. The way we can remember this is SOHCAHTOA. So SOHCAHTOA is the easiest way to remember it. So is sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Ka is cosine, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And toa is tangent, is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now, how do we use these trig properties? So let's say I wanted the sine of, we call this theta. So we want the sine of theta. So sine, remember, is SOH, cosine is CAH, and tangent is TOA. So we're going to take this and we're going to go opposite, which is 4, over the hypotenuse, which is 5. So the sine of theta is 4 over 5. Now we have the cosine. So the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the adjacent side is here. So this is 3 over 5. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite is 4. And the adjacent is 3. So it would be 4 over 3. Now let's look at another example. We have 1, 1, and square root of 2. So the sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. And the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent. So in this case we have theta here. So opposite is 1 and the hypotenuse is square root of 2. So it's 1 over square root of 2. Now cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent is 1. The hypotenuse is square root of 2. So it'll be 1 over square root of 2 as well. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent. So this is opposite is 1, adjacent is 1, so it would be 1 over 1. Now, the rules of mathematics state that you cannot leave a rational number in the denominator. So we cannot leave square root of 2 in the denominator. So we need to rationalize it. So on the last slide, we saw that sine of theta was 1 over square root of 2. So we need to change that. Now, in order to change it, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both top and bottom by the denominator. Because if we square anything, even if it's a square root, if we square a square root, then we get an integer out of it. So we have square root of 2 times square root of 2, which is just 2. So, and then 1 times square root of 2 is square root of 2. So we get square root of 2 over 2. It's okay for us to have a rational number in the numerator, but not the denominator. So this is the sine of theta. Let's take a look now at the Introduction to Trigonometric Properties assignment. The assignment begins with our learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, we can see the questions. So it says, what is the value for the tangent of angle A? So tangent, remember, is opposite over adjacent. So if I look at angle A, then the opposite of this would be 1, and the adjacent is 1, so it's 1 over 1, which is just 1. So we'll go ahead and mark that as our answer. Then we'll scroll down. Let's take a look at another one. It says, which of the following trigonometric properties would be best to find the angle measure for angle A? So I don't know this side, but I do know this one, and I want angle A. So what I have is the adjacent and the hypotenuse. Well, which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Well, that one is cosine, so we'll go ahead and mark that as our answer. So we'll continue to answer each of these questions until we get to the end. Once we get to the end, we'll click Next. This will send you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and fill out your Before You Go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.